I'm a little annoyed, frankly, at how talented you are, because it's like not only are you a writer and a performer and a musician, and like you also bake.
Yeah.
Dude, what?
Well, to me, it's all the same stuff. It's just sort of like ingredients. It's instructions. I feel. I talk a lot about this because I line dance a lot, and it is the same thing where it's like you just know the moves. And
see.
there's a difference. It's like baking versus cooking, where some people are like, I'm a dancer, I can like partner dance. Like I can't do that because it's very like it's too improvised. It's too much of like. Well, you just have to read someone else's body and like do this and like know the next thing. And I'm like, but with line dancing, it's I know the moves. With music, it's I know the chords. I know what I'm playing. With a lot of stuff, it is just writing and a formula and understanding the steps and getting to play it off in a way where it is just like I've learned it well enough to just sort of be free with it. But and I think a lot of people find it stressful because they haven't gotten to that step. And I'm like, yeah, but at a certain point you do. At a certain point you have a recipe that you know very well and you can just freestyle it.
Yeah, I'm gonna test this. I'm gonna test this out personally. I can cook.
Yeah. I
can't bake.
I think it's art versus science. It's people who are like I want to know the steps versus like I just want to sort of play with the ingredients.
Right. I'm not following the recipe. I'm looking generally at the ingredients list and then.
And a lot of people are really good at that. I think I'm always just sort of like if I can taste it, it's like it's a little too salty. It wouldn't have been that way if I followed a recipe or like.
Interesting.
Being like I'm fine to do that for other people, but when it is for me, I'm just sort of like I'd rather just not cook at all.
I know how to poach an egg, which did take me a solid year.
Yeah.
Like a lot before I could do it consistently.
Is that the one where you are like putting it in?
It's like swirl. You make a tornado. It's a whole thing.
I don't make eggs because I don't really eat eggs except for when it's like an ingredient like a baked good or anything. So every time it's like I'll date someone and they'll be like, oh, yeah, I want scrambled eggs. I'm like, okay, let me remember how to do anything with eggs. And I do feel like insane because I think that's one of the things that a lot of people are like, I know eggs and nothing else.
Yeah. So I'm in a the tragedy of my marriage is that I'm an egg person and he's not.
Yeah.
So they always go bad because I don't eat enough eggs to merit a carton.
That's why I'm like, oh, it's nice to. It's like someone can be an egg person, the other person can be a baker. It's like I'll use 4 eggs in one day.
This is what I gotta get to him baking.
There you go.
This is really just you fixing me. Is how this.
That's most of my conversations are convincing people to dance and to bake. It's just like how do I make the cult larger?
Here's the thing, because you're a comedian, and I feel like you can just do your thing, and you don't have to worry about how to describe it. But because I'm a critic, sometimes we have to sit down. And I feel like describing comedy is one of the hardest things.
Oh, I have trouble with it too. When people are just like, "Oh, what's your special?" Like at the stand-up, and I'm like, "No," but then I'm like, I don't really know how to. I described the special as like a one-man variety show. Or like a TED Talk kind of thing, but with like multimedia and like there's music and it truly like it feels like a circus, but it's just me. But sometimes I also am like it's Evel Knievel. It's like I promise a big stunt, and you know it's going to be at the end, so it's just like, well, what's the lead up to that?
Yeah.
Just sort of distractions. But I have a hard time describing it often because I think so much is based in surprise and me just going like, well, I don't want you to know what it is. I want you to be like, huh? What is this? And so. Yeah, it's very wishy-washy.
Well, it's also interesting because your comedy has come in so many different forms. Like you started on Vine.
Yeah. I was doing a lot of videos with friends while I was like either in college or just at home in high school. And I think it's, you know, you have a platform that limits you in some ways and you sort of realize what you like and then you try and use the platform to use that and like make surprise out of it or do something that's interesting to you. And I think it's hard to play with just those limitations. So a lot of times I think of things and then it was like, oh, I thought of something that doesn't really work on Vine, might work on Twitter, or I thought of something that doesn't work on either of these places and just try and figure out different modes for it, which is I think how I got into a wider ranging comedy. I think it's how I got into music. I would just be like, oh, I have an idea for a song. And it's like, I don't know how to play the song. All right, well, let's figure out how to play this song.
So you've done a bunch of Dropout stuff.
Yes.
And I love seeing you in all the different kind of incarnations that Dropout allows for performers. But like you and Anna together, that always just like hits me in such a sweet spot.
We work very well together, and I love her so much. I feel like we get to improvise a lot just outside of Dropout too, and it's always the most fun. We did a festival in Ann Arbor, which is her hometown, and it was just getting to be nuts with a few more of our friends. And I feel like we work together very well, and I'm always like, whenever it's like, oh, is there something that you want to play with and sing? I'm like, Anna would be great. I think we are in like 3 different episodes of Game Changer this season together, and in each of them it's like we eventually just sort of like end up together and are just like goofing off, and it feels like we get distracted, and they cut it down a lot. but it's really nice.
Well, like, yeah, the getting her with the boop is very funny. I've seen that a lot on my timeline.
Really fun.
In Roulette, too, you had to come up with all those celebrity names. Were there any that you pulled that you were surprised you had in your pocket?
Sirhan came to me very quick, and I was like, Robert, that's the guy that killed Robert F. Kennedy. But I'm writing a movie in which there's a joke about Sirhan that I don't know if I cut it or not, but I was like, it's a joke that doesn't play for anyone aside from someone's like, I'm going to look that up. But I had that on this in my head, and then it was just like me going, all right, let's go old. And then I was like, I think they were talking about the transatlantic accent, and I was like, Rosalind Russell, Cary Grant. I was like, I'm going to get stuck just in the 50s if I'm just doing this. But it was just a fun thing of being like, where do I go? Who do I pull?
Yeah. And more recently, Count the Rice, which you were so close. I feel like we could see your pain.
You could see my pain, but what you can't, it's like at a certain point, like when I knew I was going to lose, all I could think was, this is good television though. Like, and I think I'm playing up just like how mad I am, because I'm like, it's good television to be upset, but I was just like, if I lose, genuinely, that's the best thing to watch. Like, that's the most cinematic, that's the most, oh, holy shit, he deserved an ending. I'm like, good. That's so much better than if I had just gotten it.
I mean, it makes sense. Brennan's talked a bit about that because we've interviewed him, and like specifically, he's described himself as the Daffy Duck to Sam's Bugs Bunny.
I think the me I play in Game Changer is most often the Daffy Duck to Sam Reich's Bugs Bunny. You got to wake up pretty early in the morning to go, oh, here's a range extender for your love, Brennan.
Yes.
And so no one hungers for a Brennan victory on that show.
Yeah. He's Elmer Fudd. Like, he's trying to take out Sam, and it's just sort of like gets waylaid, but when Sam dresses up like a woman. But
that episode's not out yet, but look for it.
It's coming. Yeah. They give Brennan a gun. And he's going after Sam. Yeah.
He's wearing a long curly blonde
Unfortunately,
wig and
it's duck season, so he can't.
And like the other thing I enjoy so much about Dropout is like, one, it's fun to kind of be able to watch you guys go from one show to another, but also like your comedy special in particular, which I said to Vic when she came, or when they came the first time, was like there's all this zany lunacy stuff that's like funny and silly and kind of cerebral. But then the way the show ends, without giving it away, I don't necessarily want to do that for those who haven't seen it yet. And if you haven't, get on that. But it becomes something deeper and something more about kind of like what we choose to bring to our work and what we choose to keep for us.
Yeah.
Can you talk to him a little bit about what it was coming up with that ending?
Totally. The show developed in a very roundabout way because it's like essentially a compilation of bits that I had done at different shows, whether it's like I got asked to do like a PowerPoint show and came up with something for that, or like I used to host a monthly show with my friends Nick Kocher and Addie Wyrich, where every month it would be like, okay, come up with a new bit to do in between these other performers, and so I'd come up with bits for that, and then eventually I was like, I'm just going to do a show that I just am compiling all those bits into one thing, and I did it one time and it was fun, and then I added the backflip to it because I was like, I think that's funny, and I was like, people would ask me if I'm going to do it, and I was like, actually, yeah, I'm going to. I'll just figure it out, but I'm going to. And then my friends Nick and Brian asked me to do the show again, and they directed it for Edinburgh, in which they were like, I think you need an emotional thing to the end of this. And I truly just like it. I got very lucky that something happened that allowed me to come to the natural conclusion of like talking about performing and making it a very meta thing of like, well, why are you doing this show? And just been because I was asked to and because I liked the attention and just sort of feeling very like, all right, let's work backwards and figure out how to make a theme out of that. I just got very lucky that it felt natural to the sort of like joke that we came up with of me trying to impress someone by doing the show. Because in a way, I feel like a lot of performers get into performing and comedy as a way of just being like, well, I want to be seen as impressive. And so I think doing that show made it feel like I get to do that, but also get to talk about the fact that it's like, ultimately that is what I'm doing here.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't fall for it. But my new show is similar in theme, but is also just more about the idea of performing as a way of like selling out.
Yeah.
As a way of being like, well, I've come up with all these bits and all these songs and whatnot as a way to just sort of be like, at the end of this, I want to be seen as a success. I want to rise above being a performer who does it just to travel and be someone who's like, I'm doing this to make money and I'm talented and I deserve to get paid off for it. But I think it's very easy to backtrack into getting to talk about comedy and performing when it's like I have all the bits, I just need a through line for them, because the easiest through line is just being like, let's tell the audience what they already know of, like, why would someone do this? And it's like, well, there's so many reasons why we all get into it, but it's never like the idea of like, I just love laughter so much. It's like, well, no, there's something inside me that I'm trying to fix.
So we talked a little bit about like your love of movies. Is there like a dream project, whether it's like working with a director or being a part of an adaptation or working with a particular actor that you'd like to shoot for?
I mean, I have dream projects where I'm just sort of like, there's things I'm writing that I hope to direct that I'm like, oh, I'd love to get this person in it. But there's so many of those. In terms of like directors I'd love to work with, I mean, my favorite directors are the Coen brothers. And I've written things where I'm just like, this is just me trying to do the Coen brothers. But if they were like, we need like a small role of like a cashier who like gets held up somewhere, I'm like, okay, I'll do it. I'd stand in the background of anything they do. I love them so much. And Boots Riley, another person where I'm just like, please put me in anything.
I know we both loved Love Boosters thanks to Letterboxd.
Yeah, I've been trying to get my partner to watch it for a while. It was like, when it was in theaters, I saw it and I was like, you'd love this. A lot of practical stuff. You were in the movies. You really enjoy this. And it just didn't happen. Now it's like coming to DVD. I'm like, hey, I'm going to buy the Blu-ray. We can watch this. You're going to love this. But in terms of like people where it's like, I'd write a thing and just love them to be in it. I am working on a rom-com right now that has a role that in my head, I'm like, when I wrote it, I'm imagining Frances McDormand. And it is not one of the romantic leads, but it's like this third character that's like a very like brash sort of... I'm like, every time I talk about it, I'm like, don't say asshole, but like just sort of a brash, like older, like wise person. I'm like, that to me, I'm like, I'm imagining Frances McDormand. I'm imagining Allison Janney in I, Tonya. I'm imagining like, oh, if Viola Davis ever wanted to do a really good comedic role, someone against type that would, but I'm like, there are people that I'm like, yeah, I'd kill to work with them. It's not going to happen the first time around, but I'm just like, that's the dream. But there's so many people like that. I literally have like a notes app in my phone whenever I write something. I'm just like, and these are the people who I think I imagine when I write this. But yeah.
You're also a real cinephile, because like I'm a Letterboxd person. And I'm kind of deep. And like you write a lot of reviews on Letterboxd.
Yeah, I've been on Letterboxd for I think 14 years now. Yeah. And I think people don't realize it's been around for that long. But like I found it in college and I was just like, I need a way to remember movies. I don't read books. I can't use Goodreads. But yeah, I really like it. I think I've also just made it a place where it's silly for people to fight with me now because I'm not writing anything that's worth fighting about.
Yeah.
Didn't always used to be the case.
Well, it's also, I like one, you are public facing, which I know I've talked to some people who are like, yeah, but mine's private, no one knows where I am, which I get.
Yeah.
But two, I think you write really good reviews, actually. You're not just doing jokes.
Sometimes I am, but I like to write
genuinely very lovely, thoughtful reviews.
Thank you. Yeah. I think it is, again, because I started when it was like I wasn't that public facing and it didn't feel like I'm going to change my name or adopt it over. It's just like, okay, well, I'm just accepting it. And I do like writing reviews because I truly like sometimes getting to watch a movie and being like, I want to remember what I thought of this.
Yeah.
It's not as simple as like, I gave it 3.5 stars. I'm like, that doesn't mean enough.
Yeah.
I want to be like, this is shot very well, but I'm so confused by this choice. Or I want to talk about like, why did this actor do this thing? Like, does anyone have any understanding of this? But I also just, it motivates me to watch more movies also, which is very nice. And it's nice to see what my friends are watching. And yeah, it feels like the nicest social network to me because it's completely enclosed.
Yeah.
Like I'm not having to randomly see reviews from or like things that people have written that it's like, I don't know them. If you don't know anyone, you can very easily see avoid seeing what they said.